access to things that no one else had ever had access to in studying the life of Kurt Cobain. Can you talk about that process, like gaining access to these materials and what that was like?
Yeah.
One of the byproducts of it that was so crazy was, for the last few years, I was sitting on all this stuff, and I was so desperate to get it out and to share it with people. It felt weird that it was like sitting in this storage place. But it was real sort of the Kurt's mom had saved everything in existence, from his ticket stub from the first time he went to a high school basketball game to, I mean, everything for the first 13 years. And then it's amazing, given how much he moved around, how much of his art and journals were able to, stayed around. And so we had access, I think the big find for me was I knew there was going to be art in the storage facility, but I didn't know about the audio. And I opened up a box, and there were 108 cassette tapes. It was a total of 200 hours. And to me, that was the real magic of the film, was because that gave us the score, everything you heard except for the orchestral stuff that sounds like score was Kurt, playing the guitar and all that great stuff. And the spoken word story that he tells about losing his virginity, nobody had ever heard that. Kurt recorded that and threw it in a box until we found it 30 years later. So it was just one treasure after another.
Let's take some questions from the audience. Raise your hand. I'll call on you. Yeah, right there.
Just wondering why David Grohl and his daughter weren't in the film.
Well, Frances doesn't remember anything. She was 2, so she has no memory of Kurt. Dave, I think the best way I could say that is I wanted as few people as possible. It's not a film with, there were a lot of people who played in Nirvana. And I felt that Chris Novoselic could represent Kurt's interests in Nirvana to the extent that we needed to for this film.
Right here.
Question about the animations. How much of that was from, the artwork or
Yeah, the question was how much of the animation was from Kurt's artwork and how much was new. I would everything that Kurt was in, meaning the story when he lost his virginity, he was recording and trading. Obviously, Kurt didn't draw that. That was done by hand, traditional cell animation. They did 6,000 drawings and 58 oil paintings to create those sequences. And all the other stuff was Kurt's art that we brought to life, if you will, meaning Kurt didn't animate his childhood drawings. We did.
Question on the balcony?
But
yes. I was reading online before the film, and I saw that apparently you are supposed to direct an upcoming biopic of Kurt Cobain with Charles Cross writings. Because this is the internet, I want to know, is this true or?
No, that's not true. There's just IMDb, I think, got confused sometime over the last year and a half.
Okay, thanks.
Question here.
Thank you for making the film. That was really good. Big Nirvana fan. One thing that I was kind of wondering was what attracted you to make this film? Like, why'd you feel the need to make this?
I think as a filmmaker, one of the things I wait and hope for is the right canvas to operate from. And for me, I need a subject, but there's certain elements, because I do a lot of archival-based films, that I wait around for. And in Kurt, I might have said this in the introduction, but I believe that if I didn't say this, I'll just say it now, that all artists create an autobiography of their life and their work. And with Kurt, we had an artist who didn't just do music, didn't just work in the oral tradition, but also worked in the visual tradition. So you had Santa Claus, you had comic strips, you had Super 8 film, you had all these things. And so I don't think I could ever find another subject who would present me with such a complete visual and oral autobiography of their lives. So from a filmmaking perspective, it was the perfect vehicle. From a cultural perspective, I grew up, I'm the same age as Kurt. And so the cultural significance of Nirvana when they exploded was, you know, a really monumental moment in my life. But I was a casual fan prior to making the film. Now I'm a huge fan, but when I started, I was a casual fan.
How you doing? I know you went through all the audio and a lot of things. Is there a lot of music and songs that are still unheard that
Yeah, let's turn this into 2 or 3 questions about what's in the vault. I'll tell you guys whatever you want to know. So to your thing, yes, we're going to have a soundtrack that's going to have a ton of, this is the first time I'm publicly saying it, there will be a soundtrack coming out around the time of the release of the film that will have all the unreleased music that you just saw, coupled with probably, you know, there'll probably be 60, 70 minutes of music. There aren't complete songs in the sense of, so that's not misquoted, there aren't Nirvana songs with, you know, a full band. It's a lot of stuff of Kurt, you know, Kurt by himself with his acoustic or his electric guitar. But there's some great stuff even the stuff you could hear here, some of the acoustic stuff that we use to score. I know some of you guys are like Nirvana fans. That's like way outside, just the way he's playing and his picking, and it's very outside of what people are accustomed to thinking with Kurt, sort of a softer side.
Question over in the corner.
In the first third of the movie, when you had the scene where he was at the record store, was there any audio attached to that film, or your decision to go ahead and actually use the album cut for the song predicated?
Oh, you mean on Lithium?
Yeah.
What you mean when they're doing Lithium at the store in Seattle?
Movie, yeah.
Oh, there's a lot. Most of those songs that you're hearing, we used fake dub the stuff. You should have heard how bad the audio was from all that VHS stuff. It was terrible, man. It was really bad. I think one of them we left in, but for the most part, like the first time we see the band playing outside of the basement, they're doing Dive. And it's the album version. And a little dirty secret, they weren't even playing Dive that night. Like, we just faked it. So it looked like they were playing Dive. But,
Right there, ma'am.
What was the most challenging part as a director?
the most challenging part of a director, trying not to fuck up Kurt's, like, you know, I mean, this was like a sort of heavy responsibility. The whole thing was challenging, I'm not gonna lie, this was the hardest project I've ever worked on. 4 months after we started full production, I asked my line producer to calculate how much money we spent because I wanted to give it back to the studio. I really didn't think I could figure out how to do this because I went into it thinking Kurt would narrate the story of his life. And as I started listening to interviews with him, I felt that of all the media that all those places where Kurt was so expressive, that was one that he really wasn't that expressive in. Doing interviews, he didn't really like it, and he would either be, well, you could see it in the film, and he could either be sullen or delusional or self-mythologizing or what. I just didn't like the cadence of his voice, and I felt trapped, and wasn't sure how to. I never had this problem. There were a lot of parts of this film where, you know, and the film's very subtle in terms of there's a sort of, we were talking about this at dinner, but there's an overt text and there's a subtext, and I was very concerned about if some of the subtlety and who's going to bring that to the surface, and it's certainly asking a lot of the viewer, but it was really, yeah, there was not, and then the animation, you know, you get to picture lock in a film like this, and you get the storyboards to where you need to be, but then you're still, God, I hope the animators don't fuck this up, you know? And I have to say the 2 animators on this film were incredibly, they're just brilliant, man. They were like, thank you. Those guys worked their asses off, and Stefan Edelman, who did the journals, we spent close to a year trying to figure out the right look for that. You know, we experimented over and over and over again to get that aesthetic where it looks like it was shot on Super 8. You know, almost it looks like it was handheld Super 8, but that was literally just tabletop, one photograph. Snap, snap, snap. So all he's starting with to animate that stuff is just a flat one-to-one light lit, full screen journal entry. And then to take it from there to what you're seeing in here, to me was really special. But I think we all felt very motivated to try to get it right for you guys, but mainly for Francis.
Take one more question. This gentleman here, that's right.
How did you get the trust of the family? I'm sure there's a million people that were like, hey, I want to make a film about the Cobain. How did you become that guy? Were you friends with
Yeah, he's asking how I was the lucky guy who got the keys to the vault. Hard work, man, hard work. No, it's like, honestly, if I had gone to them, it probably wouldn't have happened that way. But Courtney approached me because she'd seen this movie, The Kid Stays in the Picture. And she liked my approach to documentary. And so there was this sort of respect that I came into it with. And they were really, I'm not joking, she didn't see the movie until it was finished. And, I challenge anyone to give me the keys to their vault and not see that movie until it's finished. There's no one in this room, well, maybe Matt, short of Matt, that would give you the keys to, and go, and she didn't go in there and clean the place up first, which I would have insisted on, or I would have insisted on, so I haven't asked her point blank why she did it, but I think I don't know, maybe she thought by giving me that I would sort of make her look better, but that wasn't really the case. When she saw the film, I thought she was going to snap about the ending. I wasn't sure how she was going to react to the ending. I was like, it is what it is, but I think she recognized a lot of honesty, and maybe it was time. I think it was time. I think the timing was right. So anyway, thank you guys. Honestly, I'm so glad that y'all were able to see the film tonight. I think they added another screening on Monday. If you want to tell your friends to see it, it will be the last time this film will be seen in a movie theater in South Florida. So if you want to experience it again, or you want to tell your friends to see it, because trust me, you guys just saw it. I know it was loud, but it's a lot better in a theater than on TV. So send your friends Monday. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hope to see more documentaries.